Hey everyone, it's me again, and I'm back with another installment of Revolutions, the diary of my spins basically. I've got 20 or so records to share with you here, discuss, and you know, maybe inspire you to listen to them, or if you've got them, revisit them. And I hope you're all well. I've got other video ideas that I'd like to explore, but I've just gone back to work and I'm a bit overwhelmed and tired, so it'll be Revolutions for today. But if you've got any video ideas that you would like me to explore, please drop me a comment, and obviously drop me a comment, generally speaking, to react to this video. That's what I do it for. I repeat that all the time, but it's a bit, it's a bit repetitive, but that's what I feel. And I'm going to start with my the first record I've got on this pile here. I've been playing, one of my go-to albums at the moment is Nilsson 1971, the classic Harry Nilsson pop album, with loaded with bangers, really. Basically, Gotta Get Up, Driving Along, Without You, the Badfinger cover, Coconut, and obviously my favorite song, Jump Into the Fire. Absolute belter of an album. Everybody should own this. This is a Japanese pressing, very nice copy that I've got here. But you can find this in any record store for basically nothing. But I've been just really enjoying the genius of Harry Nilsson, the simple, delivery of well-crafted pop songs. The Beatles' favorite singer. There you go. As you probably know, Tom Verlaine of television just passed away, so I cracked up my copy of Dreamtime. Unlike everybody else who thinks that the only album Tom Verlaine ever appeared on was Marquee Moon. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of. Dreamtime from 1981, I think his first or second solo record. Beautiful album as well, like a post-punk odyssey of sorts, with his trademark guitar, pyrotechnics. Very sort of New York post-punk. Sample There's a Reason, the opening track, or Mr. Blur, very good too. Beautiful record. And another sadly departed rock star, musician, whatever you want to call them, is Terry Hall from the Specials. He died a little while back, and it's got me to revisit some of these classic Specials, Funboy 3 records. Waiting, the second album by Funboy 3 is probably the best. They sort of splintered from the Specials and formed Funboy 3. This is a fantastic ska pop album. It's more like a UK pop record from the 80s. It's from 1983, and features the cover of Our Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's. I think Terry Hall was involved with Jane from the Go-Go's, so they sort of, I think maybe they even possibly co-wrote it, am I right? Or it's just a cover, I can't remember. I've just started back at work. My brain is fried. There's a song at the end. This is produced by David Byrne, by the way, which is really cool. The song at the end called Well Fancy That. Very last song. Oh my god. This is a retelling of Terry Hall's abduction in France when he was 12 years old, and which led him to be sexually abused by a group of pedophiles, obviously. But the way it's recounted in the song is very harrowing. He talked about this incident in interviews, and apparently didn't go to school for an entire year after this, because he was completely fucked up, obviously, because you would be. where do I go from there? I also pulled out my copy of the special, aka nothing to do with Terry Hall this time, but it was his band before. But that's the fantastic Jerry Dammers led continuation of the specials with my favorite track on this is Girlfriend. You know, what I like most about you is your girlfriend. I just find that song just totally like it's just amusing and fun and just infectious. It's just a great song. It's got Nelson Mandela. It has a cast of really great singers, including Stan Campbell, the UK vocalist, Rhoda Dakar. Yeah, I think Jerry Dammers is very, very, very cluey as a musician. So interesting and eloquent, and just really interesting to listen to. On the same kind of like timeline, I felt like listening to the Smiths debut album, which I don't really need to talk about the Smiths, the Manchester legends that they were. Just really a classic debut, you know, with things like Pretty Girls Make Graves and Hand in Glove. And I think probably the best known song here is What Difference Does It Make? It's a superb record, and I mean, every Smith record is worth having and owning. The debut is not my favorite one, you know. Obviously, you know, Queen is Dead, or you know, Strange Ways, Here We Come. They're better record, but this record is on point. 1984. Yeah, they're the founders of alternative music, basically, in the UK. So, Morrissey is weird these days, but don't judge him on his later sins. Also in the post-punk, indie sort of realm, I pulled out this, the third Raincoats record, probably the one that people know the least. People know the first two albums, the debut album with the cover of Lola, and then Oddie Shape as well, which is quite fairly well known. This one just got me by surprise, actually. It's a very danceable, fun, you know, dance punk, post-punk record with... There's a lot of soul in there too, which is... It's interesting. It's like, you know, as if ESG had invaded the Raincoat, you know. It's, you know, as if ESG just went, oh, we're joining along and we're going to play bass and drums along with you and sing. And I think you can find this somewhat easily. I don't think it's a very difficult record to track down, but this was on Rough Trade, 1983 as well, like the Funboy 3 record. Bit more post-punk, early indie. This is a fabulous EP called, it's a mini LP called Snake Charmer. Is Jawabul from Pill, The Edge from U2, and Olga Tsukai from Can, and they make a really great noise together. It's a dance punk, post-punk kind of, you know, early, you know, there's a spirit of Studio 54 on there, because it's a François Kervokian production, and the opening track, Snake Charmer, which is the title track, is it's just fantastically catchy dance songs, you know. This came out also in 1983, so must be the year 1983. Here is an indie pop record from Australia, kind of an obscurity of sorts. This is a band called Hydroplane from Melbourne, and they kind of sort of embody that kind of you know, indie pop sound of the Sundays, the Cocteau Twins, what comes to mind, the Pale Saints, kind of like the 480 sound. A beautiful, beautiful album, which was reissued last year in 2022 on Efficient Space, label I spoke about last video. And if you like, ethereal indie pop, if you like the Sundays, for example, I think you'd like this a lot. It's a beautiful record. The opening track, again, it tells you a lot. It's called the Jukebox. Is really worth taking a listen to get a bit of an idea of the spirit of the album. I really like it personally, but you may not. But as I said, it's kind of got a 4AD sort of early 90s vibe, I'll continue with some guitar music. Here is Sandy Bull. I was talking about Sandy Bulls at Pluribus Unum last time, the psychedelic Sandy Bull. This is the debut Sandy Bull, which is much more straight ahead in a way. Fantasias for guitar and banjo, where Sandy Bull just displays his craft for all to hear. This is really one of the key recordings of American primitivism, which is a mix of classical music, bluegrass, blues, folk, just all sort of merged into one package, which it's very avant-garde music, really. American primitivism. John Fahey and Sandy Bull and Peter Walker, they did things that were very, very ahead of what they do with an acoustic guitar. The imagination is incredible. It's just, they're beautiful records. And I'll stay with a folk record, but different type of folk. This is I think one of maybe the debut record by the Perth County Conspiracy. I don't know if you can see this very well because it's very dark. This is a Canadian folk band, Canadian psychedelic folk band. I wouldn't say acid folk because that's too far. And I think of acid folk, I think of Comus and bands like that. This is more, it's got a psych folk kind of feel. Sometimes it's very straight ahead folk too, but it's a classic of the genre. I can't speak today. I spoke all day long to students in class, and therefore I feel a bit, it's a bit difficult, so I apologize. But check it out. It's a lovely psych folk with lots of different instruments. This is from 1960. I don't know. I want to say 67, 68, maybe late 60s. I can't remember. It's on Columbia. It came out of Columbia, so on a major label, obviously. No, from Canada. The Perth County Conspiracy does not exist. That's the name of the record. So take a listen, and you might enjoy. I also pulled out my copy of the fantastic avant folk record Un Beau Matin by Areski Belkacem. Areski is obviously a wizard of the French folk scene. He's married to Brigitte Fontaine. They made lots of records together, but this solo effort is really worthwhile in its own right. I love his voice and his delivery and what he has to say. There's a song called Bally on this, which is a scathing attack on the Western world values and how the Western world colonized Africa, Asia, and destroyed it basically inside that. It's very, very powerful. It's I mean, you listen to it and you think, he was very, very politically aware, very, very conscious. 1972, I think this one. And there's a picture of Jacques Higelin there with very good friends on Sarava Records. Obviously, the cult classic French label, which just check this. It is an avant folk record with lots to say and lots of personality. When I was in France last year in 2022, I was in my hometown where I come from, where I was born, and there's a little record store which is amazing. Lots of really nice things for cheap. Because if you go to small towns, you often find bargains. At least in France, you do. And I found this. It was on the wall for 20 euros, which is like a pittance, really. Ralph and Florian, the Kraftwerk duo, which is probably not the best record, but it's very enjoyable nonetheless. A lovely electronic symphony, with the two. Basically, they were the two masterminds behind Kraftwerk. And I pulled it again because I bought it last year, and I thought, just get back into this record, and it's just super enjoyable. If you like the early Kraftwerk record, organization, and the two Traffic Cone ones, this is very much in the same kind of vein. Here is a Mexican electronic record, so different sort, cosmic electronic record, with lots of, it's got so many fantastically interesting instruments, including ocarina, which is not something you would think, on a classic electronic record, but guitars, flutes, and Roland synths and digital sequences, and Yamaha synths, and you name it. It's the whole list is there. This is a reissue, obviously, of this classic 2017 reissue. This came out in 1986 on Philips originally. It is George Reyes and Antonio, what's his name? Antonio Zepeda. His name is written there more clearly. George Reyes, and it's called A la izquierda del colibri, which I have no idea what it means because I don't speak Spanish, but wonderful Mexican, cosmic Mexican record, one that James Battery is very fond of. Speaking of James, I caught up with James last week. We went to see Oren and Bachi at the Northcote Social Club in Melbourne with Campo, the three of us. We had a great night. We had a few drinks, and we just, it was fantastic. I'll just put a photo there somewhere. No, it's great to see these guys and just have a great bit of banter and chat and talk about all sorts of things, including, you people, some of you. The gig, the Oren and Bachi gig, was very, very experimental. You had to be in the mood. I think we're getting old. I'll move on. Is a record that I revisited last week. Haruomi Hosono, traditionally an electronic musician from Yellow Magic Orchestra, but in this configuration, that's his first album, I think, or one of his first records, first solo record. I don't know if it's his first, but it's one of the first ones. 1973. You have Hosono doing basically folk rock, yacht rock, a bit of yacht rock there. It's a very cool piece. It's very breezy, and it's like a Graham Nash record, but Japanese. So like if you're into that sound, if you're into that sort of Graham Nash meets J.D. Souther meets the Eagles, and a little bit of that kind of breezy sound from Bateau, for example, the band Bateau. You'd like this. This is cool. I was chatting with Chris Cole, a good friend Chris Cole. We're just chatting online on WhatsApp, and he reminded me of this record. He posted it, and I said, "Well, I've got it too. I need to play it." So I played it. West African Cosmos, an absolute monster Afro. I don't know what you would call this, Afrobeat records. This is it was recorded in France, I think, in Paris, but it's these are West African musicians from I don't know. I want to say Mali or somewhere around there, maybe Nigeria, Mali. I don't know exactly because the countries where these people come from are not really indicated there. But nonetheless, you can look it up yourself. West African Cosmos, just a superb, funky odyssey. Really like driving, super joyful, and just filled with like horns and like super funky drums. Just great. 1976 when I was made. And then as a segue, I was also watching Dave Swain's video, El Bichofeo, who is just a dude who's got an amazing collection, who makes these videos on cheap heat. And he was talking about African cheap heat, and he was talking about West Africa. So I thought, I'll join him in and just pull out some of his records. Ayaketa, which is the project that came out on Antilles Island, featuring Steve Winwood on guitar and keyboards, which it just ended up making this super cool, again, Afro rock kind of record with those two guys, Remy Kabaka and Abdulaziz Amao. So we've got drums, obviously, keyboards, guitar, and lots of sax, flutes, congas. So again, it's what you see on the tin is what you get. So thank you, Dave. You don't watch my videos probably, but if you do, that was a cool reminder. And Dave also talked about Ghetto Blaster, which is, that one is like a high life Afrobeat. It's a killer record. I was just playing it just then, and it features Steve Potts, an American sax player. So this record was also made in I want to say it was made in France as well. Studio mixed at Studio Caroline. Yeah, I think this was a French production, this record, but it's from I think it's from Ghana, or I want to say Ghana possibly, or Nigeria, or somewhere around that sort of West African. But Steve Potts, the American sax player, plays on this, and so dynamic and so it's amazing. So yeah, this is called Ghetto Blaster, people, and it got me to play also Steve Potts. Steve Potts, American saxophonist. This is a spiritual jazz record. It's got a bit of avant-garde, a little bit of bizarre interludes, very French sounding interludes with like accordion and stuff. But this is a really, really great record. It's called Musique pour le film d'un ami, music for a film made by a friend. It's got like bits of tango in between as interlude, which you wouldn't think would work. This was recently, I want to say recently, that's what, 2020, reissued by Souffle Continu in France, and I recommend this record very, very highly. I actually picked up this record for the first time when I was in Paris in September with my friend Jack. We were just chit-chatting and the record was there, so I picked it up. Hello Jack, if you're watching. And Leah, if you're watching, if your dad makes you watch. Continuing with this wonderful, I don't know what you would call this. The closest thing I can relate this to is Henri Texier, who's my my picture on YouTube, you've got a picture of Amir, which is one of my all-time favorite records, and that's the closest thing I can think of. This is a guy who plays double bass. It's beautifully like super loud. His bass lines are very catchy, and there's only one track with vocals, and it's the fourth track on side one, La Couleur, where you've got Anthony Joseph, who just an English spoken word artist who just recites a poem. But this is really beautiful sort of jazz, but not as you imagine jazz to be. It's very stripped bare, double bass, a bit of percussion, and it's all sort of led, and I don't know. Just take a listen to it. It's called Cam Meslien, and the album is called Fantôme Futur, and it came out on Heavenly Sweetness, the French label. If you like Texier, this is the next best thing, possibly. Also, I'm thinking of François Rabat. If you're aware of François Rabat, it's a French-Syrian double bass player. It's got this kind of simplicity, you know. It's the music is unencumbered. It's kind of, you know, very sparse, beautiful music. Some more jazz records. So this one here was reissued only, you know, maybe last year or the year before. It came out on Mr. Bongo. It is Horace Tapscott quintet, and it's called The Quintet. Okay, came out on Mr. Bongo. It's oversized. It's a big record, and this is a session from 1969, which is the same session as The Giant is Awakened. So if you're familiar with that release, which is one of Horace Tapscott's key releases, it's very free jazz, spiritual jazz release. So I mean, Tapscott here is again mercurial. He's accompanied with Walter Savage on double bass, Arthur Blythe on sax, and also Dave Bryant also on double bass. And Tapscott obviously plays the piano on this very cool record, which you can get for, I don't think this is a very expensive record. It's Mr. Bongo, you know, but you know, I recommend. Just going to put this back in its oversized sleeve. Okay, a couple more. A Blue Note record that you don't see very often on YouTube is Ronnie Lowes, who was Hubert Lowes' brother, with Pressure Sensitive, which is a record from 1975, I think, or thereabouts, on Blue Note. You can see it's the next era of Blue Note. It's not the classic Blue Note. It's a jazz funk Blue Note. You know, if you like Bobby Humphries and, you know, these kinds of like later period record. This smokes. It's very funky, super dynamic, and it's got a really great cast, including Joe Sample is on keyboards on this, and just a whole, you know, it's got guitar, bass, drums, clavinet, electric piano, you know, lots of really funky drums on this. It's superb. It's cheap as well. It's cheap heat. Ronnie Lowes, Hubert Lowes' brother, lesser known brother, but nonetheless very cool. And the last thing, I've got the impression I've made this video, I've seen nothing worthwhile, and the last one is a bit of a hidden gem, I'd say. Here is music for saxophone and bass guitar by Sam Gendel and Sam Wilkes. This is a record that came out last year, I think, or the year before, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. That is, it's an ambient beautifully layered ambient record which features prominently bass guitar and saxophone, but the bass goes through effects that makes it sound like you're hearing keyboards as well. It's just a sublime kind of almost fourth world like record. If you like, again, I always go back to John Hassel and things that are ambient like that. If you like that, you'd like this. It's very, very beautiful. I can't remember which label it's on, but in any case, if you look up the name, you'll work. Our label, I don't know. Is this the label? Is it a private press? Nobody knows. I don't know. I just know it's good. All right. I'm going to stop here, and I hope you enjoyed this installment. I didn't ramble too much. Talk to me, that would be great. Take care, everyone.